Alright, apologies for that last interruption. We just left off though from the video finishing the mesh. So when I reached this intersection, I ensured that the cursor was a black pencil, and then I clicked with my left mouse button to cleanly close the mesh shape. Okay, so I was drawing the mesh with the polygonal geometry method, and now that the mesh is placed in plan, I can check to see what it looks like in plan, and it looks like this in plan. Notice how I'm selecting the mesh by its internal surface, which I can easily do as long as the quick selection button, which is here, is active. Okay. If I want to have a look at what the mesh looks like in 3D, I'll hit the F3 key, and that's what the mesh looks like. Okay. If you want to orbit around in the 3D window, remember that when the cursor looks like this, where it looks like two little links together, that is the correct cursor mode for being able to orbit in the 3D window. If your cursor doesn't look like that and looks, for example, like this, then it means you're just in the selection mode in 3D. Okay. To get to the orbit mode, you press O on the keyboard, and to actually orbit around, you press and hold the left mouse button and move your mouse around. Okay. To get back to the plan view, you press F2. And what we want to do now is to refer to the survey and put in some ridge heights or some spot levels where the survey is indicating there are spot levels. Okay, so what we should do then is insert nodes into the mesh so that each of those nodes can be allocated a particular spot level or ridge level, as ArchiCAD refers to them as, that is, say in this example, 100,660 millimeters above project 0. Okay, at this point on the mesh, the surface of the ground plane or the site is 100,660 millimeters. Okay, remember that surveyors always survey in meters, which is why we have to move the decimal point 3 places, so it's 100,660. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is to embed those nodes so that we can allocate a spot level to those nodes. The way you do that is to select the mesh, then you right mouse click on whilst the mesh is selected, and then select and activate tool. Okay, so remember that whenever you are selecting something, you must have it on arrow mode in the toolbox before you select. And then you, in this case, our aim is to embed nodes into the mesh, so we want to right mouse click the mesh whilst it's selected and select and activate the tool. What I'll get you to notice is when I click on this, the mesh will immediately become selected in the toolbox. Okay, so if I click, notice then the mesh becomes selected in the toolbox. The next thing that you need to do is to press on the intersection of the mesh. Okay, so notice how I've clicked and it comes up with this window that says new mesh points, and you make sure that it is the fit to user ridges that is selected. Okay, you want to fit to the user ridge, which is this particular point, and then press OK, and it will change that to a black dot. It will change where I've hovered my cursor or the intersection of this grid point to a black dot. Okay. Before we go any further, what I will do at this moment is just point you to a particular view mode that I'd like to change to make it easier to snap to these lines. what you'll notice is that these lines actually have a thickness to them that is different. So say, for example, this line is thicker than this line. Okay, the reason for that is because in true printing, this line has been allocated a different pen weight to this line. Okay, but when we are working and drafting from day to day, it is far easier to work with the line weights to be all the same and all thin. Okay, because if you notice here, it's very difficult to know where exactly the middle is unless you use the cursor as a guide to prompt you. Okay, so I think I'm pretty close. Just keep it. Don't show this again. So I think I'm very close to the middle, but actually I'm not until the tick mark comes up. When you are working day to day, it is best to use a visual or a screen mode that shows all the lines cleanly as thin lines rather than a mixture between thick weighted lines and thinner weighted lines. So the way you do that is go to View, On Screen View options, and then take off the true line weight. Okay, it may be the case that your project is already on true line weight, in which case you don't need to change this. So if your project already looks like that, then there is no need to change it to true line weight because it is already on true line weight. And notice how it is much easier now to see if there's a problem. Okay, in the case here, there is a bit of a problem in that this mesh hasn't really snapped to the end point. Notice how it's not really closed. Okay, what you need to do then, or let me just see if this mesh, okay, sorry, my apologies, the mesh has been snapped correctly, but the set out line here is not quite right. Okay, so this line here really needs to be moved to here. Okay, and if you ever find that this happens, then the way that you will fix it is you must select the lines, make sure the suspend groups is off, and then press escape so that you can select just this line. Okay, because this is the line, this is the offending line, which is not quite straight. And what I'm doing is I'm just scrolling down to the bottom of the line just to check whether or not the bottom of the line is also a bit incorrect. Okay, so I'm just coming here, and no, but the bottom of the line is snapped cleanly, so it's just the top of the line that needs to be moved. So what I will do is, and you'll often find things that you'll need to change. If you then go to here and just click on the end of the line and make sure this is selected, which is the stretch, you can just snap it into place here. Okay, all right, so just stop the video for the moment and we'll keep going with the next video to put in the remainder nodes on this mesh.